If you play music, if you draw pictures with a computer, that's not a game. You don't get a score, but we call it games, and there's sometimes this down thing. Don't play games, don't play around on the computer. And yet there's a lot of good can come from gameplay.
All right, we are back with our Wednesday stream, hump day. How's everybody doing today? I'm actually all decked out aside from the hat. I got my LTT hat today because I've got not only our hoodie, but our shirt and hang on, we don't sell these anymore, but we did. TH Rudy socks. So gotta rep the brand. Yeah. So, as you guys saw, I don't know, maybe you did, or not, but I got Bertha up and running, and, I am printing these. Anybody know what these are for? I need a lot of them. Probably going to print about 30 of these. Also, Aaron, if you're watching, if we have any white PLA in the print farm, could you bring that out? Because I got like a couple partials in here and maybe a couple full ones. But yeah, I'm definitely going to need more. So I'm playing around with this, and this is which one is the 0.4? Which one's the 0.3? Okay, well, this is the 0.3 layer height. Bertha's doing pretty well. It's so hard to see on white filament. Let me see here. Maybe I can zoom in. So this is how Bertha's doing after the upgrade. Pretty damn good. This is a 0.3 layer height. This took like 50 minutes, 50. This one took only 35 minutes. Same settings, just 0.4 layer height. So, and this was driving me nuts. I couldn't figure out what this was, and then I watched the print. So you see how there's some like surface artifacts here? It's from the nozzle traveling from this corner to this corner, and it leaves these little dribbles, and then when it goes over, you get these things. But I'm not going to see this on the part I'm printing, or on the project this is going into. So these are covers, and anybody know what these are for? Because I'm going to print a bunch of them. This is one part of many for the project. They are like diffusers. Toby has that right, and I'm probably going to do a video on it. I'm probably going to do a video on putting this together. I also thought, well, I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but I thought about doing a video. Do you guys ever see those nano leafs that are like really expensive for what they are? They're like those cool little wall light things with RG. There you go. Lightspeed got it. Yeah, the leaf lights. So someone released a design on Thingiverse, and it's multi-part, and I'm taking advantage of Bertha's quick printing ability. I really need to just slice more than one at a time once I get a full roll, but I'm worried about running out of filament. I do have a filament sensor, but I want to try to keep each piece the same. But I should be able to fit if I put them on the bed like this. Let's see how many I can fit. Let's see how many I can fit on the bed here. Let's pop in the slicer. What if I covered the entire garage behind me, or the garage door? What if I did the entire garage door? How cool would that be? Because the foam things are starting to fall down now. I used those command strips to put them up, and you can't. There you go. See, they're starting to fall down, and I thought about just making that whole back wall just RGB leaf lights. What do you guys think? I think it's going to take a while, but I think I could do it. So let's see what, blue tack. Oh, that's a good idea. So here, let me put myself on do not disturb. So these, or let me just exit Teams so none of our private messages pop up. I don't think I have anything else. So, okay, so just to give you a size comparison, so here's an Ender 3, okay? So I can do like one of these on Ender 3. If I go to my CR10, which I'll probably fire the CR10 up to as well, because that's got the same kind of setup Bertha has, just not as crazy. It's a 0.6 nozzle though, and I can also do my Ender 5 Plus. So here's the CR10. I could probably fit a lot of these on here still. It's probably 60-degree rotation. Let's see. How many can I fit on my CR10 bed here? Ooh. Ooh. This might be good. Probably. So here's what I'll usually do. When I space stuff out, so I'll group it then. And I'll copy the group. And then if you don't move them and then regroup them, you can go ahead and do that. Yeah, see, I'm not going to be able to do... So I can do 2 at a time. Maybe 3. I don't know. I can do at least 2 at a time on my CR10 here. Let's see. Ender 5 Plus. So here's the Ender 5 Plus. Definitely can't do 3 across, but I could do 4 at a time on my 5 Plus. So that's a pretty good size. Let's see. Bertha. Ooh, Bertha. Bertha might be the winner here. Let's see. Can Bertha do 3 across? I think Bertha can do 3 across. What do you guys think? Edit, ungroup selection. Let me regroup these. Control G. Oh, yeah. Oh, Bertha's going to come in clutch here. So look at this. Let's group these. Look at that. Bertha can do 6 at a time. So that's what I'm going to slice up after this. I wanted to print a couple single ones, but oh, yeah. Bertha's going to be putting in some work here. So I think between Bertha, my Ender 5 Plus, and the CR10, I think we can get these done pretty quick, get everything printed. It's going to take me longer to wire it up than I think than to actually run the print job. So I might have to order some more. I might just order some more white because I don't think we have a ton of white filament. I'm just using whatever random stuff we have laying around. But I'll probably see, does Coax have white in stock? They should. Should order. Aaron, if you haven't put in that, I know Aaron's put a Coax order in. If you haven't yet, add on like 10 rolls of black and 10 rolls of white. Let me see. Do they have like straight up white? I actually never looked. They have natural. Let me see. Second page. I'm looking at their site right now. We typically order black from them. Oh, they do have white. Of course they do. Yeah, 1 kilo, 23 bucks. Not bad. So, anyways. Hey, Aaron's in chat. Yeah, add me on like 10 rolls of black and 10 rolls of white. Because I want to crank this up to 10. So, anyways, there's our tangent. We got that out of the way early. Let's see, a verbal PO, yeah. No, he's ordering stuff from them anyways. I do want to show you guys here. This is what I'm working on today. I actually was just getting ready to merge this in after testing it. This is the configuration here for the AlphaWise U10, which is what Bertha's built on. This is the stock configuration, so I'm going to go ahead and push that up to the testing branch. So here, add U10 support. I should probably also increment the version number. I'll do that. I'll do that in a bit. Because this will be a new version number. A new one. So, where is that? Unified firmware backend. I'm browsing through my files right now. So there we go. We'll increment that version number and let's push it up to GitHub. There we go. So we've got a U10 with the stock board and stock screen. I want to test out Unified 2. It's on the testing branch. But I'm going to be focusing this month on getting as many machines over to Unified 2 from 1. Because I'd love to retire 1. I wanted to do it last year, but that didn't pan out. Just not enough time. Let's see here. Let's look at chat and start answering people's questions here. Dr. Jekyll's asking, is it thing number? Let's find out. Let's see. Yes, those are the ones. So thing number 4686921. That's what I'm working on. So if you guys want to follow along and do it, that's what I'm working on. I was thinking about making like kind of a kit where I source all the parts, the LEDs, the wiring, all that kind of stuff. and like even filament, like from Coex. Even I partner up with Coex to do like little, just like a few, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 kits, where you buy the filament, like you buy the kit, it comes with all the filament, comes with all the color or all the wiring and everything. I'm probably going to drive mine off of an ESP 8266 or a 32. I haven't decided yet, but it's obviously going to be connected to Home Assistant if you guys know anything about me. So that'd be kind of cool. If you'd be interested in, like, once I figure out all the parts and all the details and build it myself, would anybody be interested in just getting a kit with all the filament and the parts and everything to print it yourself and then build it? Because I think it'd be a cool video to do on showing how these actually assemble, and then the finished product. So anyways, this is an Ask Tim, so you guys get to ask me questions about 3D printing. Yeah. It was just something I thought it'd be kind of cool. We had this idea here called, we were going to call it Maker Mondays. I don't know if anybody's like done that or used that term before, but we've been internally talking about it and it kind of just like floundered because we have so much other stuff going on. But I was thinking about doing kind of like a project, like not like a subscription box, but like pick one project a month to build and make a package with all the filament, like the specific filament we use, the colors, you know, that kind of stuff. And I can use that to partner up with Coex and be like, hey, we're doing this. Can you give me a good deal so we can, you know, sell it in a bundle? That kind of stuff. So, something I'm toying around with because I want to do some more fun stuff this year. And I know part of the thing, like when I go into a project, part of my hang up is not printing the parts, but it's like, okay, well, I want to do this project. Well, now I got to source wire. Now I got to source LEDs. Now I got to source this board. Like, versus if someone's like, hey, just buy this package and everything's in it type of thing. So, anyways, so let's go through chat and see what questions we have here. Okay. Who is the first victim today? Let's see here. It's Chris. Chris Krabs is the first question asker. He says, Tim, is there a weight or sensitivity difference between the Easy ABL Pro and the Easy ABL Mini? I correct that because I'm assuming your voice to text or something auto-corrected you. So the weight, the Easy ABL Mini is about 25 to 30% lighter than the Pro. It doesn't really make a difference in your print quality unless you have a machine that is super lightweight, but the reality is it's not going to make enough of a difference. The reason we offer the 12mm sensor size is because there are some machines and some hot-end mounts, like if someone's trying to do something really compact. Why is this not focusing on me? If you're trying to do something very compact, you know what? Hang on. Oh, there we go. If you're trying to do something very compact where you will benefit from a smaller probe, that's where the 12mm is good for. There's certain machines like the Daedalus uses the Easy ABL Pro Mini because it's a compact hot-end design. But you're not going to see that, like the amount of difference the weight difference makes is not something you're going to be able to even perceive on the print. So in short, if your printer can take the 18, just get the 18. We're actually out of stock on the minis right now. I did just get pictures from our supplier. They're going through QC right now, so we should be getting more of those in the next couple of weeks here, hopefully. Fingers crossed. You don't know with everything going on these days. But in terms of sensitivity, per the actual data sheet for the sensors, the 18mm is advertised as a 1 to 10mm detection distance probe, and the Mini is a 1 to 5. Now, what we found, and the reason we have people calibrate things to a certain distance, is while it will detect, as in there's something there or there's something not there, is there is a optimal detection distance for the maximum accuracy on the probes, and they are right around 3mm for the 12 and 4 to 5 for the 18, which is why we have in the installation documentation the distance to mount it higher than the nozzle and the distance to calibrate it from, because that puts you into that sweet spot for the sensor to get its most accuracy. So I'm just trying to get comfortable in my chair here. I moved it up because now I think it looks like the autofocus, I have it center weighted. So I think my chair was down a little bit because I was messing with it the other day. But anyways, it should be good now. Yeah, so at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter for our applications. As long as you set it up per the installation guide, you'll be right in the spot where you should be. But if you have a system where maybe you can't, like you have a specialized mount or something, where you can't, get within those distances, the 18 does offer you a little more flexibility. But do know that if you go outside of the recommended calibration distances, you might not get the accuracy you're looking for and that our probes are known for. There's a reason we have those calibration distances in the installation guide, because that's where we found the sensors perform the best. So, like I said, all the detection distance means is at what distance will the sensor go, yeah, there's something there, or yeah, there's something not. That doesn't take into account the accuracy. So, the Mini isn't out of stock. It was out of stock for a while, Aaron. Did you guys, like, do a recount? Like, I'm assuming you found maybe some back stock. Let me see. Oh, no, it's not out of stock. Okay. Well, ping me with how many we have. I don't have our inventory system pulled up because I know Joe from Project R3D was looking for some, so I'd like to set some aside for him. If you guys want to send, I saw someone asking about sending a link. The way to post links when we're doing the streams is there's our link to our Discord server in the video description. If you're part of the Discord server, or if you're not, you should. It's discord.th3dstudio.com. And there's a live streams section, and you can post pictures and links and everything, because YouTube likes to filter all that out. But you can also email stuff if you want to email. We have a public email specifically for just kind of an email that we don't mind sharing. It's streams, STREAMS, at th3dstudio.com. That's literally just a email we use for the live streams in case someone wants to send something in. We try to use the Discord, but that's literally all that is. So if you email that asking for, technical support or anything, it's not going to get a reply. It's just a shared mailbox that we use for stream purposes. Tripod's Garage, man, I think he might have some memory issues, because every time he asks, "Who's this guy Tim we're watching?" Every time, I'm a little offended you don't remember me. I guess next time I see you, I'll have to make a better impression. Kobe, I'm glad it wasn't branded briefs. You know what? I can get branded briefs though. That might be good for if, like, when I'm working on a printer and my shirt rides up, there's just the TH3D logo. All right, moving on to the questions. Hey Tim, I have an Ender 5 in the Meanwhile power supply, and it sure is loud. Yeah, the Meanwhiles do run loud. I was going to swap for the Noctua, but that requires 12 volt as the board gives 24 volt. Any recommendations on a buck converter? Just any cheap buck converter will do. I've got like 3 different kinds that I have in my drawer. Those are something I keep on hand, but be very careful with swapping the fan out, because those power supplies do run warm. So I would not recommend replacing the fan with something that's less CFMs than the stock one, because you could burn the power supply up. And plus, if you're inside the power supply, you're dealing with stuff that's exposing you to mains voltage. So be very careful and make sure it's unplugged. But you might also be surprised to learn that if you open up the power supply, it might have a 12 volt fan in it. A lot of the power supplies, even though they output 24 volts, some of them do have 12 volt fans in them. So, but just make sure that you aren't putting something in there for the sake of it being quiet. That's going to end up burning it up and causing issues in the future. You guys got to remember, 3D printers are machines. They're not toys. They're not, I don't know, they're not like an appliance that's in your house. Like, yes, people have them in their homes, but at the end of the day, they're machines and they're going to make noise. It's just how it is. Don't be changing out fans because some random guy on Facebook told you he did it. He might have no idea what he's talking about and could be causing you to damage your equipment in the future. So, that's just my take on it. If I have to replace a power supply fan, I replace it with something that's as close as I can find to the stock CFM rating of the original fan. And you can usually determine that by looking up the part number that's on the original fan, trying to find a data sheet for it, and get as close as you can. So, because you can way to reduce fan noise is to go to a fan that spins slower, but it moves less air, which means things run hotter. So what's more important to you, having your printer run correctly or not having it make some noise? Move it to a different room. Get an enclosure. An enclosure cuts down on noise significantly. Just that's it. That's all there is to it. I replaced the fans and the power supplies with the ones that are as close as I can to the stock ones. So, and that means sometimes it makes noise. It's a machine. It's gonna make noise. Yeah. Just make something. Ask to make a model of Bertha. It started its life as an AlphaWise U10. Let's see. Chat just jumped again. Hang on. I gotta get my bearings again. Here we go. Just make something says he was going to do the Ender extender, but didn't get the time, even during the full lockdown in the UK. What were you doing? Tom DeBlock says, is a Sunloop S8 a safe printer, or is it best to change the power supply to a meanwhile power supply? What's the best alternative to Sunloop S8 under $400 with the same build space? You can try to find some CR10 or CR10S machines. Sometimes those pop up under the $400, but those don't have meanwhile supplies in them either. My initial impressions of that knockoff, like just generic power supply they have in there, I don't think my brother Doug's going to replace it, but the grounding seemed good. I would just check the grounding, and it's not a brand I've seen before, so who knows? It could be good. It could be bad. I haven't measured like the ripple and stuff on it. That's usually one of the big things between using like an off-brand power supply and a Meanwell is the ripple on a Meanwell, and what ripple you guys, I'll go into it in a sec. So the ripple on a Meanwell is a lot lower than the cheaper ones because it uses higher quality components. They're tighter regulated on their outputs. And what ripple is, you know, when you're converting from AC to DC, you're going to have some oscillation, okay? Because the frequency coming into the power supply is a 60 hertz AC frequency. So it's got to convert that AC to DC. So what happens is on cheaper power supplies, they'll cheap out on the components that actually regulates the conversion from AC to DC, and what you'll get is what's called ripple. And if you look on an oscilloscope, instead of DC being just a flat line, because that's what DC should be, you'll have like kind of like a little waviness to it, and that's your ripple. And the more ripple you have, the dirtier the output is, and the worse it is on the electronics. You want to have as close, as stable as a output as possible. And where the Meanwells excel is that they usually have very low ripple, whereas the cheaper ones have, you know, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the ripple, and it can be all over the place. Meanwell has very consistent quality from batch to batch, whereas some of the Chinese ones, you'll get one and they'll be very, you know, they'll be acceptable. And other ones, they'll be way out of spec, but they still output power. You know, it's all a trade-off, but in general, the main thing for the Meanwells, the main argument for them is, one, they're usually UL certified. I'm sure there might be some that aren't, but they have certifications. That means they've gone through some level of safety testing and design testing, and they usually last longer, so they're more reliable, and that power output's cleaner. So overall, like, that's why a lot of people, like myself included, favor the Meanwells, because they're, especially for the price, they're a very decent, reliable power supply. Whereas the ones with the off-brand ones, some of them output decent power, other ones, they're all over the place. And you could have the same exact machine with the same label power supply, and it really depends on, you know, how the batch was on that power supply. Maybe you had a guy that, you know, did really good assembly. Maybe that batch of parts had a little bit higher quality parts. You know, whereas with the Meanwells, they guarantee that, and that's what they're known for. They're known for making power supplies. They've been making power supplies since the 80s at the very least, and I know this because when I was pulling my Commodore 64 out of storage, I looked at the power supply. It's got a Meanwell logo on it. They've been around for a while. They've been making power supplies for a long time. So, let's get back into it. But let's see. Sean Youth, what would you say are most common causes for layer shifts? I would say if I had to, like, just on my experience, loose belts, printing too fast, and there was one other. Oh, your print head hitting the print. If you got a print and something starts curling up, you know, your layer, instead of it being like this, maybe a corner starts going like that, your nozzle hits it and then it causes layer shift. And I know this because I've had this happen. And I didn't realize that that's what was happening. So I was going through my printer. I'm like, my belts are tight. My motors have enough torque. You know, I have the VREF set correctly. Why am I losing steps? And so I reprinted at the same point in every single print. It would it would shift on the X. And then I was like, okay, so I printed it. And as soon as it started getting close there, I started watching it. And all of a sudden I saw one of the edges start coming up, like on the layer, not off the bed, up at the top. Saw that go like this. And the nozzle did a move, and it hit it, and it lost steps. Yeah, it was an interesting thing, but definitely something to keep in mind when you guys are printing and you're trying to, like, figure out what the hell's going on. Because you can chase your tail because you think, oh, maybe it's my VREFs, or maybe I have a bad motor. Maybe my belts are loose. You know, when it could be something as simple as you just have something on your print curling up and the head's hitting it, which is causing it to lose steps when it collides with that part of the print. R. Mills, he's asking about the Hero Me Gen 5. How do you set the Y offset on your Ender 5 Pro? Is it too far forward or too far backward? Because if it's too far on the bed, what you should do is just change your slicer to limit what your actual travel is. But they should cover that in the actual guides. So if you have, let's say, well, it's not going to set it too far back. It's going to be too far forward, which still could limit your travel. You would need to find out that distance, get that number of, okay, I put this on here. Well, now my hot end's sitting. Let's just use an arbitrary number that I'm pulling out of my ass right now, and let's make it a simple number. So let's say it's 10. It's 10 millimeters too far forward. But you're still on the bed, okay? Where was I going with this? So, okay, we're 10 millimeters too far forward on the bed. We got the Hero Me installed. My nozzle's hanging off 10 millimeters. So you could use the home offset feature, or the home adjust feature in our firmware, and you could put a -10 value for Y and just put X at 0 if there is no offset on X. Now, here's what you'll need to do. Move your printer all the way to the rear on Y and make sure that you can still travel the distance all the way on Y. On that printer, it's 220 millimeters. Make sure you can actually still travel 220 millimeters, because what you have then, if you have a 10 millimeter offset, so the -10, it's going to move it 10 to get your nozzle. Okay, when you go to print and you say, let's say you're printing at, X0, Y0. Well, before it starts to print, it's going to move the nozzle 10 millimeters back to get it to the 0 point on Y. Now, your gantry is now, that whole, gantry that moves the head on that machine is now moved 10 millimeters back further than it would be with the stock setup, because the stock setup had no offset. So what could happen is, if you tell it to go to 190, you might be fine. But if you tell it to go to 200, you could run out of travel and collide with the frame. So if that's the case, the easiest way to do it is just limit your slicer to 190 on Y. If you want to get more advanced, you would have to manually compile, or no, you can still actually use the easy firmware site. You'd have to change the Y_bed_size setting from 220 to whatever the distance, your actual travel that you can travel now on Y is. So let's say it's a 10 millimeter distance, and that printer's, I don't know if I said 200 or 220, but that's 220. So if you got a -10 millimeter offset and going to 220 on Y makes it collide with the frame, you're going to have to cut your Y distance down to 210. Now, if you just change your slicer to 210, you're never going to print past 210 on Y, so you probably be fine running the firmware stock. Now, your probing might be a little off, but it doesn't matter. You just don't want to be printing out to that, because if you think too, when you run an ABL probe, if you are, I don't know if you are or not, you have that inset distance to probe in on the bed. So even when it's probing, it shouldn't hit the frame. and you'll probably be fine. Usually what I'll do is I'll just set it in my slicer. The only thing I'll usually customize and limit if it does get too short is like Bertha stock, the U10 is a 500 millimeter printer. Well, with my aftermarket hot end setup and the cooling setup, I can actually only go up to about 475 before I start hitting the top of the frame. So in the firmware, I changed my max distance on Z to 475. So it will not go past that. Even if I tell it to move to 500, it will not go past that distance. So, but yeah, hopefully that answers the question. So the TLDR is figure out what that distance is, enter it as a negative value for the home adjust feature, and then check to see if you can still go 220. You might still be able to go 220 without clouding with the frame, but you got to test it on your machine. Every machine is slightly different. So, you know, just because, let's say I did the same thing to my machine and I can go 220, there might be slight differences in the assembly or even the extrusion lengths, because Creality likes to change things mid-production, where you might not be able to go the full 220 after losing that 10 from the hot end setup. So just verify. And like I said, the easiest way is just put the home offset in and then tell your slicer your bed's only 210 on Y, so you never print past 210. Then you don't have to worry about it colliding with the frame. Or if you want, you can limit it on the firmware too, but you'll have to manually make that edit. That's a custom circumstance where you're going to have to manually edit the source code. So, which we do provide. Let's see. Next question. I'm in. I see someone say check the link I'm putting in. Oh, you're putting in there. Yeah, I see typing. All right. Anyways, let's see here. I'll circle back to that. Okay. JJ Miller asks, is it okay to print Fantrons and PLA, or should I use ABS/ASA? The answer is it depends. I typically will print the fan shrouds. I'll print like the bulk mount usually in PLA or PETG. Sometimes do the whole thing in ABS. But in my experience, certain hot end mounts over time, because they're exposed to heat, even if you have a silicone sock on it, PLA will like to sag. My answer is if you can print ABS or ASA, I would recommend printing the fan duct in ABS or ASA, especially if it's near the hot end, or the hot end heater block itself. If you can only print PLA, put it on and try it out. I can tell you right now, the Pets Fangs, I've not had good luck with them not sagging in PLA. Same thing with the Hero Me. I've had like my one machine, that duct has been reprinted twice, and I keep doing it in PLA because I'm lazy. But I'll get like 6-7 months of use out of it, and then I have to reprint it because it starts sagging down. I should just reprint it in ABS, so I don't have to change it anymore. To give you an idea, Bertha's fan duct is printed in ABS, and that fan duct's over 2.5 years old. So, yeah, if you can do ABS or ASA, do an ABS or ASA. It'll just last you longer. Richard L. asking about some automation stuff. Do you enable OTA updates on your ESP devices? Yeah. So I can update them from my ESP. I use ESP Home for the firmware on most of my ESPs. The only thing I don't use ESP Home on is stuff like this, plugs. I usually use Tasmode on them. Let's see here. Tommy O. I'm not sure. Have you seen the Ender 3 multi-print? I'm not sure if that's what, what's his name also posted. Let's see here. Dino Gilly, is there a printer with a turntable? I don't know what you mean by that. You want to play records on your printer? Or print on records? Let's see here. Plasma's asking, have I heard about any Ender 3 V2 layer shift issues with the 422 mainboard? No, I haven't. I have not. I'm not aware of them. So our Ender 3 V2 is, it should be in the print farm by now. It's physically there, but I think Joel was getting it hooked up yesterday, so we'll be putting it through its paces. But just when I was doing testing and test prints on it, I never had any issues. Let's see here. Ovi says, hey Tim, is it normal for the Y carriage of the Ender 3 Pro to be out of level? If so, what should I do to level it? Or what carriage would you recommend purchasing? Typically, if your carriage is out of level, it's because the V-slot wheels need to be adjusted. Like the wheels, like imagine my fists are the wheels, like you got to adjust the eccentric nut to move it. So if you move, they usually only have it on one side. So if you move this one in, it pulls this one in closer too to hug the rail. But I have had carriages that were bent, and this may sound very rudimentary, but if I have them where, you know, I put them on the ground and they kind of go like this, take a rubber mallet, flip it. So put it on the ground if it's kind of like this, like, you know, if you have like a bowl and it's like this and it's like that, flip it over and gently work it flat. I've done that before too. Just take a rubber mallet, put it on a flat, hard surface. Like our concrete floors are actually really flat in here. In the garage, and I'll just work it out and get it as flat as I can. I don't have a particular one to recommend as a replacement. We certainly don't carry them. I know there's quite a few aftermarket ones out there. So just read reviews. But like I said, I've had to pound a few of ours flat because they came warped from the factory. I believe they're just aluminum, so they're pretty easy to work flat with just something as simple as a rubber mallet. Obviously don't use a metal one because then you'll be putting dents in it, but a rubber mallet, you know, with enough, like, just kind of tap around, take your time. If anybody has any other suggestions on how to flatten out a aluminum plate, we're talking about the Y carriage, not the bed itself. Don't do that to the bed itself if it's not flat. Let's see here. Biker Trash Wolf says, I have a King or KP3 when I first turn on the power supply. Flatten is obnoxiously loud. By the time the bed and hot end are preheated, it's running much quieter. Should I look into replacing the power supply or the fan itself? The fan itself you can replace if you have some patience and common sense electrical, but what you're describing is what happens with a lot of these cheap fans, is that's the bearing going out. And eventually, once it warms up, it kind of works itself out and becomes quieter, but that fan is failing and should be replaced. If I'm correct, and memory serves me correctly, that takes a 60 millimeter fan, which we do carry replacement 60 millimeter fans for power supplies in 12 and 24 volts. So what I recommend is if you're going to replace your power supply fan, open it up, look at the label on the back of the fan, and find out if you have a 12 or a 24. Because as we talked earlier in the stream, even though you have a 24 volt power supply, it could still have a 12 volt fan inside of it. So confirm before you actually look and order. But we do carry, if you just type 60 mm space fan in our search on our site, we carry 12 and 24s. And those will last a lot longer than the stock fans. Anton says, do you have plans to get a reseller in Europe? Not Europe, but we are talking with people in the UK. So, let's see. Victor Riviera says, hey Tim, I put in a Big Tree Tech SKR 1.4 and the prints come out smaller than what they're sliced. Sounds like your X and Y steps are off. And possibly your Z. So, or your drivers are in a different stepping mode than you think they are. Could be your driver stepping mode, depending on your jumper settings and firmware or firmware configuration, or it could be your steps per millimeter off on one or more of your axes. John Santiago, he installed the EasyABL and LCD kit on my Stereotypes Pro. Seems I have to adjust offset on fly when I make changes in slicer for layer height 0.1 to 0.2. Doesn't the probe compensate for that? Yeah, the probe will compensate for your bed. But if your machine has, you know, mechanical variances or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Things can be loose. And regardless if the probe is only accurate and repeatable as your machine. So if you have a machine that's got some looseness to it or it's not consistent, then you have the baby stepping. But it's not uncommon to have to baby step with any ABL probe, and as the guide says, you should use the baby stepping. I always check my first layers when I start up a machine, just to make sure if I need to adjust it up or down. And if you're following the slicer settings, you should not be printing at a 0.1 or 0.2 for your first layer. You should always do 0.3 for your first layer. That's what we recommend, because it gives you a little more little more wiggle room in case there are spots on the bed that are outside of the probing grid, so they're less noticeable. And it also gives you a little bit better bed adhesion too. So then that's all outlined in the installation guide. Okay, chat just jumped again. Where was I at? Did I get the direct drive from Creality after I complained? Oh, for the V2? I got a partial refund, and then I did end up buying the direct drive upgrade kit separately, but I have not put it on the V2 yet. Let's see here. I'm putting... Okay, Sam put a link. The 3D Feedy Multimate Film Theory. Oh, yeah, I saw their Kickstarter-y Web 2.0e video. I think they were... It's like a multi-material thing. It looks like a variation on the Prusa MMU design. With a splitter. I mean, it's nothing that hasn't been done before. But everybody's all about... Oh god, someone just dumped a bunch of links in the... What's it called? In the Discord here. So a lot of people are saying they're having issues with layer shifting on the Ender 3 V2. A lot of Reddit links and everything. Could just be that the Y driver is running too hot. Maybe try turning the VREF down a little bit. Because here's the thing, those boards are only 2-layer boards, and they're running trinamic drivers on it. This is something I've, complained about the Chinese companies doing multiple times. And those are the 2208s, not the bigger package. So they have the 422 board, which are the little square package with the ball grid array on the bottom. Or not the ball grid array. Its contacts are on the side, but it's got the vias going through the board. But it's a smaller physical package, so there's less dissipation because the 2208s and the 2209s rely on the PCB to dissipate the heat. So because Creality doesn't have a lot of copper on those boards, and they don't have a lot of layers of copper on those boards, they have 2, and they're 1 ounce copper per layer, which is way under what Trinamic recommends. You get the drivers running too hot, and it can cause them shutting down, which would then translate to losing steps until the driver cools back on and comes back online. Sometimes they just stay offline. But I noticed that the bigger package on the 427 boards have the 2225 drivers, which is basically a 2208, but it's in a larger physical package. Those seem to run cooler than the smaller ones because they have more physical space to spread out. I would say try backing your VREF off. Or you could just have a defective board. People can just have defective boards, and Creality should change them out if you're in their warranty period. Let's see here. I will say this is going to be a shorter stream. By shorter, I mean we're going to cut off right around 3. So I do have some other stuff to get back to today. But anyways, let's see here. Where am I at? Sam, okay, check the link in the Discord. Already did that. Paul the Texan. What are the advantages of EasyBoard on Ender 5? Oh, I thought there was more to the question. I was reading it. The other question is, when will they be back? When will they be back in stock? Hopefully they'll be back in stock towards the end of the month. They're in production right now. We had some slowdowns with trying to get components that were being affected by the human malware. Just delays in production on those components. So I can't run production on the boards if we don't have the components to put on the boards. But let's see here. Anyways, advantages of having on the Ender 5. You got the 32-bit processor on there, which will give you a little more headroom and flexibility to run things faster, put more features on the firmware. But I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think Creality is shipping the Ender 5s with the new 422 boards. But they're the either the 4988s or the HR 4988s. But those are not the quiet ones. So you would get the silent drivers because our board doesn't have the Trinamics. And then the main thing is it's just going to be a more reliable board. You get the Trinamic drivers for silence. You can run linear advance on them too. Something you can't do on the 427 boards that Creality makes because of how they have the drivers set up. But the main thing is just ease of use, reliability, and if you have the 8-bit board, then you're going to go to a 32-bit processor, so you can run things a little bit faster without the processor going, I got to stop to think about what you're telling me to do. So, and then in terms of doing the hell was that? I think the dog just made a really weird noise. Anyways, where were we? Kind of all over the place today. Okay, the next. Oh wait, hang on. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I'm at here. Chat jumped on me again. All right, what is a reliable Idex printer you recommend? I don't know because I don't have an Idex printer, so I can't give you an honest recommendation on something I don't have here. I can tell you, and I've mentioned this before, my buddy Michael Hunt over in the UK, oh my god, I'm blanking out. J Supplied is his company. They sell Craftbot machines, and he also uses them in their farm, and he tells me they're really good. I've seen some prints off them, and they look pretty damn good. But those are more higher-end machines. They're not like hobbyist level, because you're getting into the couple $1,000 price range. They're definitely more commercial and reliability oriented. They're not just cheap Chinese machines. So they are a little more expensive. But maybe someone in chat has any suggestions on Idex machines if they've used them. Plasma is asking, is it possible to change to the Easy Board with the Ender 3 V2 stock screen? I believe... Oh no, I haven't tested it yet. It should be possible, but I don't recommend it, solely because you don't have access to all of the LCD features that are available on the traditional screens. What a lot of people have done, which is what we did on ours, is we converted the screen from the stock screen to the 128/64, and there's actually a Help Center article in there's a Help Center article in the Help Center about converting the Ender 3 V2 with the STL file and a link to the screen. And you can even do that with a stock board too. But once you do that, you then treat the Ender 3 in terms of firmware, or the Ender 3 V2. So once you swap the screen to the same one that's on the Ender 3, you basically then treat your Ender 3 V2 in terms of firmware setup as an Ender 3. So, and that's for either board, the stock one, or if you put an Easy Board in there. I think we could get the Easy Board support of the Ender 3 V2, but the reality is because of the limited LCD they have, you can't get access to most of the features that are on the LCD screen when using the 128/64 style. So you can still control things over G-code, but you just lose functionality. Let's see here. Okay, so, hi Tim, I'd like to ask a question. I want to enter 3 V2. I want to build an enclosure with an IKEA lack. I see a lot of people doing those. I thought about doing one, but I never got around to doing it. What kind of air filter solution do you suggest for the hazardous air inside the enclosure? Well, I wouldn't worry yourself too much, but if you are worried, a simple, you can make your own. There's tons of printable ones on Thingiverse. A simple box with a fan that's got enough airflow and pressure to push through the HEPA filter. But basically, like a HEPA filter with a carbon filter is going to do you a lot and pick up most of that stuff. Just make sure that you're using a HEPA filter that'll go down to the 0.1 micron size. I have ones in the rooms here. I have one in my office here. We have two in the print farm. This office is about 260 square feet. The one I have in here is spec'd out for 1,000, so completely overkill. You can't really like over filter the air. And then in our 500 square foot print farm, we have two of the 1,000 square foot units, one at either end. So, but yeah, just like a simple HEPA filter and an activated carbon filter or charcoal filter, they sometimes call them. You can get sheets of activated carbon / charcoal, whatever you want to call it. They're black sheets. They're usually about this thick, and you can cut it to fit whatever size. So you could print a housing that holds the HEPA filter and then the carbon filter and then something to hold it on or clip it in to keep those from falling out, and then a fan on the other side to pull air through. So typically you want to go, in terms of filtration, you go carbon and then HEPA. So the air is flowing through the carbon first, then to the HEPA filter, and then back out into the room. So, but you could also just like, recirculate the air inside the enclosure too. You don't have to dump it out to the room. And I wouldn't recommend doing that if you're doing ABS, because you're going to lose a lot of heat. So let's see. TH3 Studio, Dan, DB3D Dan, shouldn't you be working? I'm sure a lot of you guys in here should be working. How are your MK steel nozzles with carbon fiber PET G? The steel are fine. We also have our plated ones, the Easy Flows. Those work great with the PET G. I pushed like 20 plus rolls through one of them just to test it, and there was no visible wear on them. The steel is a good cheap option for printing abrasives. And by abrasives, I mean like carbon fiber fill and glow in the dark. Not a lot of people know this, but glow in the dark filament is just as abrasive, if not more in some cases, than carbon fiber filled filament. Yeah. So let's see here. Rabba Hagri, I saw you in here last time, man. I'm glad to see you coming back. I didn't scare you away, apparently. He joined late, may have covered this already, went on the tool sets and went on the CR10 V2 Easy ABL install. Tool sets should be in towards the end of the month. Like I said, I think I covered on the last stream, maybe I didn't. But I got final, like, they're making the casings now, and they sent me pictures to be like, okay, is this what you want? And I approved that, so they are moving forward. So I assume they're going to be shipping towards the end of the week. So those should be about, once they ship, about 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. We're not shipping those air, we ship those via sea because they are very heavy. It would have cost me an extra like $1,800 for 500 sets to ship them over air versus sea freight. And in my opinion, I think the sea freight does less damage to stuff than the air, because the air stuff is faster, and I think they just handle the packages rougher. Whereas the sea stuff, it goes into a cargo container, it gets unloaded, and then UPS takes it from the dock to our location here. So let's see here. Oh, as for the Easy ABL install, so I want to make this clear. So the installation video for the Easy ABL Pro, we are just using the CR10 V2 as an example. Unless there's a machine like the Sidewinder X1 or the Ender 5 Plus or the CRX, CR10S Pro, where you have extra steps to install the ABL kit on it, the purpose of the video is to just illustrate on a machine how to connect it to a printer. So we won't be doing ones that are like, here's how it is on the Ender 3 or the Ender 5 or, so on and so forth, because the installation process is the same. Hook it up to your printer power supply, unplug the ZN stop and put it into the Easy ABL board, and then mount everything. So it's the same process for every printer, the installation. It's just the printers look different, but it's the same core concept. Connect the power, connect the ZN stop, mount the sensor, and update the firmware. There's little other steps, but that's really what it comes down to with installing the Easy ABL is power, ZN stop, mount it, and update your firmware. That's assuming you know all the distances, but that's all covered in the guide. We did update the Easy ABL guide. I'm surprised no one caught this. I'm surprised I didn't catch this. The 18mm sensors actually have 2 LEDs on them. There's a green one that's on when power is applied, and there's a red one that turns on when it's detecting something like your bed, and the green shuts off. I did not realize that we did not specify the colors, or me, it was my fault, what the different colors in the LEDs are on the sensor. So I had a guy that was trying to calibrate a sensor, and he's waiting for the green LED to shut off, and it wasn't shutting off because it will never shut off unless it's triggered. So the 18mm probe, when it's not detecting anything, it's green. When it's detecting something, it's red. But that power indicator light, the green one, is always on the 18 millimeter. Now the mini sensor we sell, and we are getting close to the 3-minute mark. So, oh, I got to open a web browser. Okay, I guess I'll post it from my personal account then. There's our cutoff line. The EasyAbel mini sensor, because it's physically smaller and we don't have much room to put extra things in there, it only has the triggered light. So it's only got the red trigger light. So both of them have a red triggered light. The difference is the 18 millimeter has the power status light as well as a triggered light. So, you know, let's say this is the sensor. The LED light would be green, and then it's detecting something. Now it turns red, and the green will shut off. So you move it up, green, red, green, red. Now, if this is the mini probe, there'd be nothing, and then red. And then it would shut off. There's no power light in the 12 millimeter sensors. So, but that's been updated and pushed out already. Let's see here. Let's see, where were we at? Okay, here we go. So, how do you determine the maximum acceleration setting of a stepper for custom firmware? Some of the builds I'm watching are running up to 10K or higher. Yeah, some guys run crazy settings. There's no real way to answer it other than set it as high as you think you're going to need, and then see if the printer can do it. Do a test print. And if you're losing steps, back it off. Or up your VREF. So, but at a certain point, your VREF will be so high that you're going to be running the stepper motors and the driver's too hot. So it's all about a balance of how fast you actually need to print. Like, I don't think I have any printers set higher than 2K on the acceleration, but there's guys that get into dick swinging contests about, oh, I can print at 500 millimeters a second. Blah, blah, blah. If that's your thing, great. But that's not my thing. I print at reasonable speeds, anywhere from 60 to 100 here. I typically run like these. These I ran off at 80 because it really depends on what I'm printing. Certain stuff, I don't care if I have ringing. Other stuff I do. It's all about the print. So, Craig Williams, your EasyBurst 2 client used to know exactly what my printer is doing based on the sound, but now I can't tell if it's printing. Yeah, it's a serious problem because I was running, Bertha was sitting right here. I was running test prints, and I had to stop and look because I was like, I thought I told it to print, but it was printing. Aside from the layer fans on Bertha, she's actually very quiet, but I have two 5015s running at full speed, so it makes some noise once those kick on. But during the first layer, I was like, I looked over, I was like, I thought I started printing. I was like, oh, I did. It's nice. I don't mind the noise, though. I kind of like the sounds, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because you get used to, oh, I know it's doing a travel move, or I know it's doing a straight line, or I know it's doing a curve, that kind of thing. Sorry, my MeWe chat is popping off here, apparently. Let's go here. What about a Voron switch wire? Not cheap to build, but the same price as a Prusa MK3. Have to source your own parts. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Vorons, mainly because I don't have hours and hours and hours of free time to put a printer together. There are some guys on our Discord server building Vorons. I think Battle Catbox is working on one right now. But it's kind of a running joke that people have Vorons. There's more that are not built than ones that actually are built. So, and they do have a Discord community. They're an interesting group of people. But yeah, we are almost through. We're at 3 o'clock, so we're right on schedule here. John Santiago should be working. Get back to work. Shuck says, you're right about how bad USPS is on delivery. Still waiting as they scratch their ass instead of delivering. Yep, they're right now. I'll say it again, guys. USPS is sucking right now. They're dealing with high volumes and tons of people calling off because of COVID. So, or sorry, damn it, I'm going to get demonetized because I said the C word because of the human malware. So yeah, if my recommendation, and this is what I've been doing for my personal shipments, because I do buy stuff online. If you can pay for UPS shipping, like you can on our site, you can check if you want USPS or UPS. I've been shipping as much stuff as I can for UPS, because UPS is getting stuff to me on time. So basically, if you care about your stuff getting there at all, or getting there in a timely manner, don't use USPS right now. And that even includes Priority and Priority Mail Express. All of their services across the board, from Priority Mail to First Class Mail to Priority Express, There goes my... Hang on. Let's go ahead and turn on there. There we go. All of them are screwed up right now. So if you guys actually care about getting your packages in a timely manner or getting them at all, I highly recommend pony up the extra bucks for UPS. At the very least, at least with our site, we have that route shipping protection, which is on by default. You have to actively, when you're at the checkout, you have to turn it off. Highly recommend keeping it on. It's very cheap and they pay out claims very fast. Just, it's a no-brainer. The site I buy my drone stuff from, Race Day Quads, they have route, and that's actually how I found out about route. They use it as well. So if you shop with a site that has the route shipping protection on there, I highly recommend it. They do a good job of taking care of the claims, and they're a lot easier to deal with, like an infinite amount easier to deal with if there's an issue with the order. So anyways, and if for some reason you guys have an issue with route and you're within all their terms and policy limits and they're dicking you around, contact us. We have a rep that Aaron likes directly phoning up and making his day lovely. So anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up. We're right on time here. Didn't start the stream late, and we're right at the hour mark. So I appreciate everybody that stopped by. Your damn cube is on now, so you all can be quiet. That's a good question. How long before filing a claim? I believe for the US, and check their things, we have a link in our help center. So if you go to the customer service section, there's a shipping section. Oh, Bertha just finished another triangle. I believe it's 7 days for the US and Canada. So 7 days, no tracking updates. And I believe for international, it's 20. I'm going to go there right now. But they could revise their policies before. They actually dropped the Canada time. It used to be, I think, 14 days, but now it's 7. The only thing you don't want to do is wait too long, because if it's over 30 days since the last tracking update and you still haven't let us or Route know that there was an issue, your claim's going to get denied. You have to let us know. Route has an awesome app for your phone that you can track all of your packages, not just from us, but they put a tracking number in and keep an eye on everything in one spot. I use it for all of my shipments, like my personal stuff. So, but if you go onto our help center, it's under customer service, and then there's shipping questions. You'll see when to file Route Plus claim, deadlines, and policies. There's a link directly to their site, so you can see their policies there. So they do a really good job. You just have to file within the guidelines. So, and like I said, you want to file if something hasn't shown up. It's been 30 days since the last tracking update. That's too late. So if it's been, you know, if you're in the US, if it's been 7 days at least, file a claim. You know, it could still show up. If you're international, it's been 20 days, file a claim. That's what it's there for. Use it. And tell them that you want the order reshipped, and they will reship it at no charge. Like, they will go through and put the order through for you on your behalf and reinsure that follow-up order. If you do tell them, oh, I just want a refund, you'll get refunded the product less the shipping costs. They don't refund shipping. But if you tell them, just reship it for me, it doesn't cost you anything. So I do think it's a really good service. That's why we signed up for them. But that's about it. I appreciate everyone that stopped by. It looks like we peaked just shy of 100 viewers. I was going to do a giveaway, but no one seems to have liked the video. So maybe next time. But all you guys that did stop by, I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you guys learned something. And as always, happy printing.